I went to a protest down the block from where I live, and I wanted to share about what actually happened there. I'm doing this because it really bums me out to see my neighbors saying things about my other neighbors that simply aren't true. So, protests in Honesdale, myths versus what actually happened. To read everything, be ready to pause. Let's start with claims that the pavilion isn't a park and that a permit is needed to use it. If I go to the borough website to departments, then Parks and Recreation, then Pavilion, I find that I can apply to reserve it using the Parks Use Request form. Scrolling through the form, there's a section that says if a protest is planned, approval is not required under the First Amendment. So the pavilion counts as a park on the borough website, and a protest does not need a permit per the request form. Next up is the busing in protesters myth. I've heard this one for years. Part of the confusion is that there's a bus stop near the pavilion. The daily scheduled bus takes folks to and from New York City. On weekends, the weekday bus parks near our grocery store. The weekend bus arrived in the middle of the protest with one passenger getting off here, followed by a second and a third, plus the bus driver. An hour later, someone talks to the driver, and then he closes things up and leaves for New York City, having picked up 0 passengers. From this time lapse, we can see that people trickle in by car and foot, and eventually there end up being more than 400. A coach bus can hold around 50 people, so 400 would take 8 buses, something that could not go unnoticed in a small town. Sometimes the Stourbridge Line brings in buses of tourists, so they have some room there, but not today. None of those 3 passengers had signs, so I'd say that no one was bussed in to protest. Then there's road blocking. I haven't seen anyone block traffic at past protests, but I have seen safety crews stand in a crosswalk while a group is crossing to keep an eye on slow walkers and antsy drivers. Large groups of people crossing a street takes time, whether it happens after a parade or at a festival like Roots and Rhythm or at a protest. But I think that how we feel about each of those events changes how we see the same action. And then some people call their neighbors speed bumps and encourage people to run them over. During this protest, the police acted as the safety crew, keeping an eye on those slow walkers and antsy drivers. And even though traffic wasn't being blocked, and there were many pauses to keep car traffic from building up behind human traffic, at least one person still believed the myth that he was being blocked and considered killing his neighbors for the crime of crossing the street more slowly than he'd like. On a lighter topic, there is a lot of concern over where in the world the mayor is. At the last protest, he mostly hung out across the street where the police and counter-protesters usually are. That's mostly where I saw him at this one as well. The last myth is the idea that the protest is happening directly across the street from the Republican headquarters, so that folks can scream at that place. Standing in front of the pavilion, the Republican headquarters is nearby, for sure, but it's downstream, not directly across. As I walk upstream on the sidewalk, most folks have their backs to me, meaning that they are facing away from the headquarters. This is what happened last time and the time before. Protesters are facing traffic, not yelling at the headquarters in the other direction. When the protest was over, people went back to their homes around Honesdale, in Lake Ariel, Bethany, and many other nearby places. The pavilion was left as it was found. I'm not suggesting anyone change their opinion about protests or other stuff. But ask yourself, honestly, do you like it when people who don't know you make things up to support what they think about you? I know I don't like it. My hope is that neighbors try to see each other as neighbors first, before deciding that there's something else. Unpermitted, outsiders, speed bumps. We don't have to agree on everything to see each other as complex humans and to work together on the things we both love, which I'm willing to bet is actually quite a lot of things.